Hi everyone, I am Shajibin. I once again welcome you all to yet another biology class conducted by Manorama Horizon. Today we are going to cover the chapter Heredity. Now let's begin. What do you infer from this image? You can see that there are women with different hair color. So how do these women got different hair color? This is because of the genes present in them. These genes have slight variation in them which causes different hair color. So, let's study about what is gene, how they cause different characteristics in an organism. We'll begin with what is gene. Now, you all know that we have studied about cell, the different organelle in a cell in our 9th grade, right? Now, if you just see, a cell has a nucleus, which is the most important organelle of a cell. Inside the nucleus, you will be finding chromosomes, and these chromosomes are made up of DNA. So, DNA are thread-like structures which composes the chromosome. Now, if you look at the DNA, if you just look at the thread-like structure, you will be finding there are many small segments of DNA which are functional and help in the production of proteins. So, this segment of DNA which are functional and helps in the production of protein are known as gene. Okay, so these structures are known as genes. So, if the question is asked, what is genes? So, genes are nothing but the functional unit of DNA. Now that you know what is genes, we'll move into different terms of genetics. Okay, different terms related to genetics before we move on to how genes impact different characters. Now, if you see, the first term which we are going to study is inheritance. This term will be used very often in this chapter. Inheritance means the transfer of traits from a parent to the offspring. Now, just imagine that your mother has hair color black. Now, what will happen? And your father has hair color brown. So, the offspring may get black hair or brown hair. Okay. So, here that's because the transfer of character has taken place from the parent to the offspring. So, the character can transfer from mother parent or from father parent. Okay. So, this is inheritance. Now, next we'll study about heredity. Heredity means the process in which traits or characters are inherited. So, how it is inherited? It is inherited through sexual reproduction. Okay, so the process by which the traits or characters are inherited. Now, while this inheritance, some changes also take place. We know that we are not exactly like our parents. We have our own individuality. So, that changes takes place due to variations. So, what are variations? Variations are changes that occur in an individual, okay, in an individual during the process of inheritance. Okay, during the process of inheritance, the changes which occur in an individual, that is known as variation, and that makes an individual unique. Now, these all about inheritance, heredity, variations, we study these all under a branch which we call it as genetics. So, genetics is the branch of biology where we study heredity and variations. Okay. So, these are the terms which are very important and which will be repeatedly called off in this chapter. Now, genetics was first studied by a person whose name is Gregor Johann Mendel, or you can say it as G.J. Mendel. G.J. Mendel was the first person who studied about genetics. So, he basically saw that the pea plant, the garden pea plant, so there are two different pea plants, sweet pea and garden pea. So, here Mendel studied garden pea, okay. The garden pea plant, he saw that there were many variations in this pea plant. Okay, this pea plant, the height of the plant had variation. It had tall plants as well as dwarf plant. Okay, the flower color had variation. So he was very amused by the different characteristics of the pea plant and he studied these characteristics in detail. After studying these characteristics in detail, he formulated 3 laws. Okay, he formulated 3 laws and we call it as Mendel's laws of inheritance. Okay, so he formulated 3 laws and we call those laws as Mendel's laws of inheritance. So first let's see what are the characteristics he has taken in the garden pea. So he has taken 7 characteristics. Okay, 7 characteristics in reference he has taken. So each characteristic had a pair of contrasting traits. Okay, so let's see the 7 different characteristics which Mendel has taken. So the first characteristic which he has taken was flower color. So he saw that the pea plant has 2 flower color. One is the purple and the other one is white. So he took the first characteristic as flower color and the contrasting traits were purple and white. Then he took seed shape that were round and wrinkled, seed color which were yellow and green. Okay, then he took pod color which was green and yellow. Then he took pod shape. You can see here this is the inflated shape and this is the constricted shape. Then the plant height, one was tall and the other was short or dwarf. And then flower position, that is axial flower position and terminal flower position. So this 7 characters were taken into consideration by Mendel. Now here you can see there are 2 terms here. One is dominant and the other one is recessive. So here these 2 terms are very important because there are characters which always get expressed. Okay, those characters are known as dominant character. Dominant characters are characters which get expressed very easily. Okay, and there are other characters that is recessive. Recessive characters which get suppressed by the dominant character. Now for example, each gene has 2 alternatives. Okay, now we'll take a purple color character. Now if I donated purple color by P, now each gene has 2 contrast traits. Okay, we take it as one as capital and the other one is small. So capital denotes the dominant characters. Okay, it denotes the dominant character, whereas the small denotes the recessive character. So here capital stands for purple and small stands for white. So each gene has these 2 alphabets together in them. Okay, so if it is capital P and capital P, it's always purple. Okay, because the dominant character. Now if it is capital P and small p, it's always purple again, because here the dominant one will be expressed. As I told you, the character which get expressed always. Okay, now then you have small p and small p. Now this small p and small p, if both are small, then there is no factor which is denoting the dominant character. Okay, so here in this case it will be white. So is it clear? Now first Mendel studied taking only 1 characteristics into consideration. He has taken only 1 characteristic into consideration and studied the whole process. Okay, how it is getting inherited, how the inheritance worked. Okay, so that he has studied first, taking only 1 character into consideration. So that kind of experiment which he conducted, taking only 1 character into consideration, we call that experiment as monohybrid cross. Okay, so let's first see the monohybrid cross. Here, as I told you, only 1 characteristic is taken into consideration. So here you can see in this image that there's a tall plant and a dwarf plant. So here the characteristic that is taken into consideration is height of the plant. Okay, so height of the plant is taken into consideration. Height of the plant. Now this height of the plant has two contrast traits. One is the tall trait and the another one is the dwarf trait. Now for dwarf you can use the word short or dwarf, okay, both are same. So these two, that is the tall trait and the dwarf trait, are the parents here. Now Mendel crossed these two contrast traits and obtained the first generation. We call it as F1 generation or first filial generation. So when he crossed the tall and a dwarf plant and obtained the first generation, he was really confused here. He was doing this experiment for the first time and the result what obtained confused him, because all the plants in the F1 generation were tall. There were none dwarf plants here. All plants were tall. So this, whatever number of plants he got, all the plants were tall. So he had now one choice, that he need to cross this F1 plants and obtain the F2 plants to understand whether the F2 generations also has all tall or there are dwarf in that. So when he did selfing of this F1 plant, the result again shocked him, because the F2 generation had some different characteristics in them. So you can see here, first he has taken plant, that is parent plant, as tall and dwarf. When he crossed them in F1 generation, he got all tall plants. Next, when he took this tall plants and crossed with each other, what will he obtain? Any idea what will he obtain? Okay. So here you can see this was the result. He obtained 3 tall and 1 dwarf. 3 tall plant and 1 dwarf plant. So let's see the genetics behind this. So when he took the parent plant, they were pure dominant. Okay, pure dominant means having both the factor as capital T. Okay, they were in capital form. And the dwarf, we know that dwarf, they are always small. So these were the parents that he has chosen. One was complete tall, we call it as pure tall, and the other one was dwarf. Now when we cross this, first the formation of gametes take place. So in the formation of gametes, the factors actually segregate and only one factor form a gamete. Okay, so here in both capital T, only one capital T forms the gamete. Similarly, in both small t, only one small t forms the gamete. Now, when these were fused, the obtained result was capital T and small t. Because there is a dominant factor here, so what will be the visual characteristics here? The visual characteristic will be a tall plant. Now, when these plants were self-crossed, that is capital T small t crossed with capital T small t, the gametes which were obtained were, I told you, each factor forms a gamete. So here you can see there are two different factors. There is a capital T, so a capital T will form a gamete. Another, there is a small t, the small t will form another gamete. Similarly here, capital T and small t will form two different gametes. So when a capital T was fused by a capital T, there was a pure tall. Okay. So when a capital T was fused by a small t, there was a hybrid, that is also tall. Next, the small t, when it was fused with capital T, again there was a hybrid, but tall hybrid. Okay. Now, when the small t was fused with small t, it was a dwarf plant. So, the monohybrid ratio was 3:1. That is 3 tall and 1 dwarf. So, this was the result of monohybrid cross. Now, after formulating the monohybrid cross, after doing this experiment, he formulated 2 laws. So, what are those 2 laws? Let's look into. So, I told you that Mendel has formulated 3 laws, right? The first law is law of dominance. What does law of dominance says? In a heterozygous condition, that is capital T small t condition, only the dominant factor will be expressed and the recessive factor will be suppressed. Okay. So, this was formulated by Mendel, the first law of inheritance, that is the law of dominance. And the second law said that during gamete formation, individual factors separate from each other and form individual gametes. As I told you, if there is a gene with capital T and small t, capital T will form one gamete and small t will form another gamete. So, this law means this was stated in the law of segregation. Law of segregation. Segregation means separation. Okay. So, is it clear? Now, let's do some questions. Okay. Which one of the given statement is incorrect? Which one of the given statement is incorrect? DNA has the complete information of a particular characteristic. Does DNA has complete information about particular characteristic? Yes, DNA is the only one that governs the complete information. So, first statement is not incorrect. Okay, it is a correct statement. Next, DNA is the molecule responsible for the inheritance of character from parents to offspring. Is it correct? DNA is the molecule. We have seen in the first slide that DNA is the molecule that helps in the inheritance. So, this statement is also correct. So, we have seen first statement is correct, second statement is also correct. Now, what about the third statement? Change in information will produce a different protein, right? Okay, when DNA sequences changes, the protein also changes. So, this is also a correct statement. Now, next we'll be finding characteristic will remain the same even if protein changes. That is wrong, right? Because one protein governs a characteristic. If the protein change, the characteristic will change. So, this is incorrect. Now, they are asking about the incorrect statement. So, it will be D. The answer will be D. We'll move on to the next question. Now, in this question, you can see a cross between pea plant with white flower, that is small v and small v, and pea plant with violet flower, capital V and capital V, resulted in F2 progeny in which ratio of violet and white flowers will be. What will be the ratio of F2 progeny? Okay. Now, just now we have studied the monohybrid cross, right? So, what is the ratio? Just guess what is the ratio. Just pause the video and just try to answer the question. I hope you all got the answer. So, it's very simple. It is 3:1. Violets are the dominant here. So, dominant flowers will be 3 and the recessive one will be only 1. So, the answer is 3:1. We'll move on to the next question. Now, next question is what is variation? Variation you can define in the first slide itself. I have told what is variation. Okay, variations is the differences that are obtained during inheritance. Okay, now what are the main causes of variations? What are the main causes? One is during DNA formation, any changes taking place during DNA formation that may cause variation. And the second reason is sexual reproduction. Sexual reproduction causes variation. Now, in a cross between violet flower plant and white flower plant, state the characteristics of plant obtained in F1 progeny. We have just seen in F1 progeny, the dominant will be expressed. So, it will be violet. Next, if the plants of F1 progeny are self-crossed, if it is self-crossed, then what would be observed in the plants of F2 progeny? So, what will observe? Both characters will be there, violet as well as white. Okay, both the flowers will be there, violet as well as white. If 100 plants are produced in F2 progeny, then how many plants will show the recessive trait? 100 plants. What is the ratio? Ratio is 3:1. So the number of plants produced is 100. So what will be the recessive plant number? It is 1, right? 3:1. So here we'll divide it by 4, we'll be getting 25. So how many plants will be produced? Having recessive trait, it will be 25. Now let's move to the next topic, that is dihybrid cross. Now here in dihybrid cross, Mendel has taken 2 characteristics into consideration. Before we have seen 1 characteristic into consideration, here we'll be seeing 2 characteristics taken into consideration. Now you can see in this image, he has taken a parent plant with 2 characteristics into consideration. So the first characteristics here is yellow and round, which shows that he has taken seed color and seed shape. Okay, yellow and round. So we know that seed color, there are yellow seed color and green seed color. Yellow are the dominant one and green are the recessive one. Similarly, the shape of the seed, there are 2 different shape of seeds. One is round, which is dominant, and the other one is wrinkled, which is recessive. So here the gene which is used is capital Y for seed color and capital R for seed shape. Now here for recessive we'll be using small y and small r. Now during the gamete formation, 2 characteristics will be there in the gamete, because Mendel here has considered 2 characteristics, right? It's a dihybrid cross. So each gamete will have both the characteristic. Now here there is only capital Y, so capital Y and capital R will be there in the gamete. Similarly, here in recessive parent, it will be small y and small r. Now while in the formation of the first generation, you can see there is a capital Y here and a small y here. So the generation will have 1 capital Y, 1 small y and 1 capital R and 1 small r. Now tell me, what will be the visual characteristic of this generation? What will be the visual characteristic? Yes, it will be yellow color seed and round shape. Okay, the seed shape will be round and the color of the seed will be yellow. Now just imagine what will happen in the F2 generation. In the F2 generation, these F1 generation will be self-pollinated. Now let's see the F2 generation. So in F2 generation, the F1s will be self-pollinated. So when F1 will be self-pollinated, they'll be producing first gametes. Now what are the gametes? So here you have to be very clear how the gametes are formed. Each gamete should have both the character. Each gamete should have both the character. Now you can see there's a capital Y and a small y, a capital R and a small r. During gamete formation, 1 factor should come from each gene. Okay, there are 2 genes here defining 2 different character. So during gamete formation, each factor should come from 1 gene. Now, so we'll see all possible combination. All possible combination should be taken into consideration. So first let's see, it will be capital Y and the other, we have taken 1 factor from 1 gene. Now we have to take the other factor from other gene, that will be capital R. Okay. Now what is the other combination? Other combination can be capital Y and small r. Small r can be the other combination. Now what are the other combinations left here? Can a capital Y and a small y be a gamete? No, it cannot be, because we have taken both the factor from a single character. So this cannot be a gamete. Now the next possibility will be small y and capital R. Okay, and the last combination will be small y and small r. So these 4 are the combinations. So here you can see capital Y, capital R, capital Y, small y, capital R, and small y and small r. These are the gamete combination. Never capital Y and small y will be a gamete. Never capital R and small r will be a gamete. So This you have to take care. You have to take only one factor from a gene in the formation of gamete. Now that we are clear that there are 4 gametes formed, how many progenies will be there in next generation? Obviously, the cross will take place between 2 parents and there will be 4 and 4 gametes. So, it will be 16 progenies. 4 into 4, 16 progenies. So, if you just see, when this F1 parents were crossed, so these are the actual parents, the normal parents which we have taken in the first start of the cross. So, they are the parent. They form the F1 which were yellow round seeds, and then this F1 will self-cross to produce the second generation, and this second generation they produce 16 offspring. In the 16 offspring you can see that there were yellow round which were the actual parent type, and there were green wrinkled which were again the actual parent type. Apart from that, we have got 2 new combinations here. One is green round combination, and the other one is yellow wrinkled combination. These are the 2 new combinations. So, Mendel was really confused here that while crossing yellow round and green wrinkled, he got 2 new combinations, and they were in the ratio 9:3:3:1. This was the ratio of dihybrid cross. So, when he found that there were 2 new combinations, he formulated his third law, and that third law was law of independent assortment. Okay, that was the third law. So, first law we have discussed, law of dominance. We have discussed the second law, that is law of segregation, and then it was law of independent assortment. So, independent assortment is during gamete formation, every gene independently assort to form all possible combinations. Okay, it forms all possible combination. Hence, we saw 2 new combination. One is green round and the other one was yellow wrinkle. These were the 2 new combinations which we saw. Now, to learn more about this probability and to understand more about genetics, you need to know more about probability. So, for that, you can watch our another video which is on probability. Okay. Now, let's move on to the last topic, that is sex determination in human. We know that in India, there is a big problem of female feticide. What happens here is, the mother is always blamed for giving birth to a female child. But what does biology say? Does biology say mother is the one who is responsible for the birth of a female child? Let's look into. So, here you can see that our cell is composed of 46 chromosomes. Our cell is composed of 46 chromosomes, in which 44 are autosome. Autosome means the chromosome which give us the somatic characteristic, the characteristics of how my eye color, hair color, or what my height will be. Everything is decided by this 44 chromosome, and there are 2 special chromosomes which we call it as sex chromosomes. Okay, so these 2 special chromosomes which are present in our body are sex chromosome, and these chromosomes are X and Y. Now, if you see a male body has 44 autosome plus both the sex chromosome, that is X as well as Y. Whereas a female body has 44 autosome and 2 copies of X chromosome. There is no Y chromosome in the female body. Now we know that during gamete formation, as I told you, only one factor forms a gamete. So here during ovum formation, only X forms a ovum. There's no other option here, only X can form a ovum. Whereas during sperm formation, there will be a sperm containing X chromosome and there will be another sperms which will be containing Y chromosome. So, it's completely chances, okay, that it can be a male child or a female child depending on the sperm that get fused with the ovum. Now just imagine there are two different gametes here, one containing X chromosome, another containing Y chromosome. So when a X chromosome sperm fuse with a ovum, it gives a girl child because there are two X here. So 2X, two copies of X leads to a girl child. Similarly, a Y chromosome when combines with an ovum, it leads to the formation of a male child. Okay. So XX and XY. So when XX combines, it will be a girl child. Similarly, when XY combines, it will be a male child. Okay. And there are 50-50% chances for a male child and a female child to be born. So now I hope it is clear how is sex determined in humans. So this was the last topic. To understand more about the chapter, you can subscribe to Manorama Horizon. Thank you.
Manorama Horizon. Learning made simple.